Nilah is one of the most challenging ADCs to learn, but also very rewarding to master, as she has unique and unconventional fundamentals compared to other ADC champions. Let's start with the basics. With the Keystone rune, you are always going to want Conquer 100% of the time because it is just the perfect rune for her. And for patch 14.16, you can choose between Absorb Life and Triumph, but after the nerfs in 14.17, you shouldn't go Absorb Life anymore and only go Triumph. Alacrity and Bloodline are always up to personal preference, but I prefer Bloodline because Lifesteal is a harder stat to buy, whereas attack speed is very accessible. Cutdown is generally good, but if you are playing an all-in lane, take Last Stand. Now let's move on to something a little more complicated, and let's talk about her item builds. As Nilah, obviously you want to build as much crit as possible, but after multiple item nerfs on ADCs and the rise of tanks and mages, you cannot build Glass Cannon anymore on Nilah unless you seek to play and position perfectly, which is extremely difficult because Nilah is a melee champion. For starter items, buy Doran's Blade by default and only buy Doran's Shield if the enemy have poke, but make sure you don't try to all in at all because you will lack the damage from not having Doran's Blade. Only fight the enemy if they are extremely out of position. The two best first items on Nilah are either Essence Reaver or Blade of the Ruined King. Essence Reaver provides a lot of AD, 25% crit, and 25 haste on top of a passive that allows her to never worry about mana, which helps her a lot in extended fights. But the main part of Essence that is so good for Nilah is that it's a crit item that gives ability haste. Nilah's Q ability doesn't go down in cooldown when you rank it up, so it is a flat 4 seconds all game long, unless you have ability haste. Nilah's R, her biggest playmaking and teamfighting tool, is on a 110 second cooldown at rank 1, which is too long of a cooldown for a champion that relies on it to fight. So in conclusion, Essence Reaver is a very gold efficient item and provides Nilah with lots of stats that she needs, which is much better than Collector in every way possible since 12 lethality is really nothing and quite literally countered by 1 cloth armor. The only drawback of Essence Reaver is the fact that BF Sword is a vital part of building the item, which makes it awkward if you never get to base with 1300 gold, which you're usually stuck with either 2 longswords or a Caulfield's Hammer. And this is why we have 2 builds for Nilah. If we are able to afford that BF Sword on our first or second back, we should go Essence. If we cannot, we will look to buy Blade of the Ruined King instead. This item recently just got adjusted to be a nerf for ranged champions, but slightly buffed for melee champions, and Nilah is a melee champion. With nerfs to cut down, LDR's Giant Slayer passive, and Kraken Slayer, tanks are way hard to kill now for the average ADC. However, Nilah gets the full bonus of the Blade passive, and on top of that, all the components are very cheap, but you are always able to afford them when you recall. AD, attack speed, and lifesteal are all stats that are good for Nilah, so if you cannot afford a BF Sword, just buy Bork instead. Also, if you think the video has been helpful so far, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. Let's move on to the most complicated part about playing Nilah, the laning phase. Nilah is a melee champion, so she should always struggle during level 1 since she has no range and no way of getting onto the enemies. The best way to skill check the enemy and see if they know how to play against Nilah is to see how they position in lane level 1. If they are pressuring you away from the wave, they are playing correctly, and in this case, do not trade HP away to last hit. Just stay in XP range if possible. The enemies will shove the wave into the turret either on the second wave or the third wave, and that is when we can farm for level 3. If they shove the wave into the turret on the second wave, then they are already messed up. If you lose too much HP, you can no longer fight and win your lane until your first recall, so please keep in mind that you should only farm minions when you will lose minimal HP. One trick that you can use is letting the enemies hit you once with an auto or a targeted spell so your minions will always aggro the enemy instead of hitting the enemy minions, therefore letting the wave push into you faster and you will lose less minions. But make sure not to overdo it, literally only let the enemy hit you once and then back off. That's pretty much it for the early levels, but your goal as Nilah will always be to freeze on the enemy when possible. Freezing on Nilah is extremely valuable because of the EXP difference that you can create between you and the enemy bot lane. Always be aware of this, but one tip I can give you is to only freeze when you are in better condition than the enemy. If you are low in HP or mana, just try to push out the wave ASAP and recall. After level 6, always try to use your first ultimate to burn the enemy flashes. Obviously you can go for the kill, but the intention should always be using the first ult to trade summoner spells, then your next ult should guarantee the kills. Nilah is very strong in skirmishes where the enemies run into her, so make sure to take your chances in 2v3 fights when the enemy junglers gank you. Obviously you cannot outplay every 2v3, but for general advice, if the enemies waste their cooldowns on your support, you should always try to fight if you are in good condition, because there is a very high chance for outplays if the enemy are running into Nilah. That is pretty much it for the lane phase, as anything more specific will have to depend on each matchup or situation, but if you practice Nilah with these general rules, you should be able to win lane in every elo up to master tier with no problem. Next up will be a Nilah game where I'll be showing you how I applied these fundamentals to my own games, as well as some bonus advice to carry as Nilah. And after the gameplay, there will be multiple infographics regarding Nilah or supports that are good with Nilah, and items as well. So make sure to stick around for that, or if you want to skip around, you can check that out right now. Hey everyone, it's Enryu and welcome to this gameplay. So right now we are playing Nilah Senna versus Draven Leona. And so this matchup, I guess they were trying to cheese us or something, so they got to lane late. We didn't leash, so we walked to lane early. And normally you're not supposed to leash when you're playing bot lane anyways, like your jungler should just solo start. So right here is when I should start backing off because the enemy will hit level 2. Like even if we hit 2, we can't really fight them because I won't have my W. And if I take W, I'm not going to have dash, so this is kind of a mistake by me here. I should have backed off immediately. And I end up having to level W, level 2, and then we run. So it's not the best start since we're just low HP already. It's alright because I can show you how to come back from this. This is actually a perfect opportunity to show you how you can win lanes where it seems a bit unwinnable. Alright, so right now we're at level 3. I want to go in on the enemy. I want my Senna to walk up. Like I want her to keep using her HP to trade with the Draven. So then when he gets to half health or maybe even lower, I can go in and we can clean up a kill, right? Because obviously I'm lower health, but I do have cleanse for the Leona stun and I have W for the Draven autos. So if we are ahead like this in levels, we should just walk up to them and just fight them. Obviously my Senna didn't take advantage of this, so it's okay. But now the wave is pushing back into the enemy, and we should be a little careful now. So the jungler ganks us here, which is pretty bad for us because the wave was bad, and because we are low HP. If the Draven doesn't like push the wave, if it just lets the wave push into him, it's like pretty doomed for us. But the fortunate thing is that Draven doesn't do that. He just keeps hitting the wave. And right here, Leona flashes on us, and Wukong ends up getting another gank onto us, which is kind of tragic. I mean, their jungler's playing for them because they're Draven Leona. But it's okay because as long as you are still alive as the ADC, everything is fine. And right here, I pretty much know that they're going to dive me. You see that Wukong shows early, but even if he doesn't show, we know that they should dive us. But again, we are Nilah, so we have to play it calm. Right here, I use my W, and then I flash away after I secure the kill, and then they end up giving us 1 kill back. So in this state right now, the wave is like okay for us because it's under tower, we can farm it. And the enemies are running out of mana, right? Whereas my Senna is coming back from base, so she's full health and full mana. So it's actually in our favor at the moment. Like I'm gonna regen with this red buff and I'm just gonna hit the minions for lifesteal. So we can slowly recover, right? And the fact that I have 1 kill is pretty crazy. Like I'm going to back with a BF sword buy, so my early game advantage is already secured. For this game I'm gonna go BF sword into Essence Reaver, and then most likely we'll build a Death Stance because their team is like full AD basically. Right now we are ahead in levels, we are ahead in gold. We have a pretty good advantage right now, so I'm looking to fight because their Draven is quite low in HP. Like I have enough mana for at least 2 dashes plus 1 Q, so we can win the fight because I have red buff, right? So I want my Senna to walk up and use her HP bar, but she's not walking up. Like the only thing about Senna right now is that the players that play Senna aren't really the best. But you just have to like make do with what you have. Obviously, as I said before, whenever they engage on to you or your support, it's like a winning fight, most likely because you don't have to use a dash to get onto them. So Leona gives us a free kill here by going in, and she doesn't kill any of us. So then we get to have a free push onto the enemy turrets, and then we recall. Alright, so I recalled, I bought a BF sword and 2 longswords. That's like the most ideal back you can get, really. Like it doesn't get better than this. So right now I'm walking back to lane with so much AD that we can win any 2v2 as long as we don't grief it, right? Also it's really hard to grief this lane because once you're ahead as Nilah into Draven, the Draven can't really play the game, especially once you're level 6. So right now I'm looking for an engage onto enemy. Even if it's 2v1, I'm pretty confident I can win it as long as like Draven doesn't hit 6 or Leona doesn't hit 6 instantly. So the Draven gives us the chance right here. I ult him. I W to make sure I don't get stunned here, and then I just clean off the Draven. We could try to go for the Leona, but Wukong shows up here, so I guess we back off. The wave, we just shove it in. Like there's no point freezing, we can't even freeze it anyways. So we just shoved the wave into tower. I'm still looking for a little bit more right here because I do have my W coming up in 5 seconds, but I'm making sure I don't walk up too far. Not too sure why my Senna ults here. It's kind of a waste, but it is what it is. So right now my gold is at 940. I want to say an extra wave. Like I want to get this plating. In hindsight, I should have probably hit it once, but at the same time, like it's probably a bit hard because the Wukong and Leona were there. So it's quite unfortunate I had to stay for another wave to guarantee my Essence Reaver, but it's okay. So right here I'm standing at the turret to kind of bait them into thinking that I recalled, but in reality I'm going to stay for one more wave and also see if there are any more opportunities. Like the Draven is still level 5 or level 7, we are still stronger than him by a lot. So after we get this wave, the wave is pushing back into them. I don't really want to walk up because I think Leona is probably in a bush trying to cheese us. But our Syndra comes, so we end up actually walking up to them. I mean, Syndra misses her E, but it doesn't matter because as long as one of the CCs, Senna or Syndra hits, we can kill him. And now we just get a free push into the enemy turret again. Since the enemy Draven is dead, we're just going to push it ASAP, recall, buy our item, and walk back to lane. So this is quite perfect. We have Essence Reaver and we have a longsword. Now we're walking back to lane. We are really strong. Like our spells are on a pretty low cooldown now after we get ability haste. And we have infinite mana, so technically speaking, we can stay in lane for an infinite amount of time, right? We have heals from Senna, we have lifesteal, and we have infinite mana. So now is kind of the time where we actually take over the game. We can constantly fight the enemy. Right here, like whenever an ADC is walking up to hit your turret like this, you have to wait for the minions to almost die, then just ER and drag them into the turret, and it should be a free kill most of the time. And if it's not a free kill, it at least burns their flash. So you're always winning if you're ulting on their tower like that. And since we kill the Draven again, we can hit the tower. We have 3 grubs, so this should be at least 2 plates. I'm looking at the map though. I'm making sure that no one can come kill me. Once Leona comes, I'm preparing to get out with my minion. So I dash onto the minion, I get out. I do want this wave though, but Draven comes back, so I have to leave. My Senna is in our jungle. My Senna is in our jungle. She's like basically never with me, so I do have to play a bit more careful. Like if Senna were with me, we can take any 2v2, but I don't want to throw my lead, right? I have a 700 gold bounty. Draven also has his passive, so I don't want to give them any opportunities. Jungler does dragon here. We're just gonna hover to make sure that our jungler doesn't die, right? But since Senna is there and the enemy doesn't look they're contesting, I'm just gonna walk back bot lane. Like right now, it seems like our mid laner is doing a bit too much. Like she's trying to roam too much. Like mid tower is losing so many plates. So I'm gonna have to try and find a way to get bot tower first. But if we lose first tower, I mean it's just unfortunate. You can't get first tower every game, even though Nilah is such a good champion at hitting towers. So my Senna is still roaming. I can't reach that fight. There's like no point either. I should be hitting the tower instead. So 1v2 right now, that's alright. It's actually quite worth because they can't stop me from farming. So as long as I'm keeping the Leona in my lane, whereas my Senna is roaming, then I'm doing my job, right? And it's worth for my team in general, because they will always be up 1 member. But it would be nice if I can get the first turret right here. But that's going to be on the next recall, right? I have to back because I have too much gold to spend. Gold that you didn't spend is not gold that you have, right? You always have to use the gold, so like you always have to use the gold to buy the items before you can actually say you're ahead in gold. So mid lane unfortunately dies. My Zyra lives, it's okay. I'm just gonna rotate mid here because I want to defend the tower if they hit it. Like they can't get the bot tower for sure, right? 100%. But if they keep hitting mid tower, I want to be there because mid tower is really important. So I lose a wave for this, it's alright. I think the possibility of saving mid tower is worth more than that wave right there, especially when I'm so ahead. So I'll walk back bot now. Now that there's no more threat on mid lane, right? I covered the timer where they could take the turret. I'm gonna move back bot. The Draven should have just recalled, or like recalled like 10 seconds ago. Like it's a pretty good time to take bot tower since no one can stop me, so we get that for free. And I'm getting ready to recall for my death stance. This is like probably the biggest power spike this game because they have 4 AD champions in the bot side. Like they only have AP in the top side, and I'm pretty much never going to interact with that guy. So right now I do want to go to a side lane. I don't want to be mid, and the reason why you don't want to be mid lane as Nilah is because Nilah is a champion with like close to 0 range, right? Like you can argue she has range with her Q, but it's not enough to hit like the mid tower if the enemies have any range at all or wave clear. So if I'm standing mid lane neutralizing myself, it's like I don't have a lead at all. I'd rather be in the side lane, like either top lane to get the tier 1 or bot lane tier 2, right? I'd rather be affecting the other parts of the map where the enemies have to come into me to fight, right? So right here, our top laner gets engaged on. I probably could have killed them if I didn't mess up a little bit. Like I tried to get away from the incoming members, but I ended up losing up some damage. So it's a little bit unfortunate. The owner's 1 HP, the Wukong's 1 HP. You know, York ends up getting the kill, but I kind of wish my top laner wasn't so much of a KDA player. Like if he tanked 1 turret shot, 1 ability for me, I could have killed them all most likely. But it's okay, it's not that big of a deal. So my teammates ended up getting some kills back, so it's pretty good. We got turrets as well, and we did some damage to a second tier 2 top turret. So overall, that was not bad of a trade if you don't consider that it was a shutdown kill that I gave. But overall, it's okay. Like here, I'm spam pinging my mid laner to go mid because Syndra has the most range out of all of us. She should be the one to defend mid. As long as she wave clears, the mid tower should never die. So right now, my goal is to go bot lane and get the tier 2 turret. Like, what my teammates do on the top side shouldn't matter. So my objective right now is taking the bot tier 2 turret, because I don't want to go top, or otherwise the top tier 2 would be the same. But bot tier 2, but tier 2 turrets in general just give so much gold, right? It's giving you like upwards of 700 to 800 gold if you get one of them. So it like boosts my entire economy if I get one of them, or maybe even 2 of them. And as well as taking the enemy Krugs, right? I can always take that along with the waves. As Nilah, if you're in the side lane, it just provides so much pressure onto the enemy, as long as you're like not really behind, right? If you're really ahead, the enemies constantly have to look at you. You can always just threaten the enemy. Right here, my teammates die mid, so I kind of have to go mid now. I don't really have a choice. I'd rather be bots, but it is what it is. Here, my Zyra kind of sends it. I don't know why. Like she's just inting it. It's pretty hard for me to defend the turret, but as long as I clear the wave, it should be okay. It's just the fact that like they have so many members up on us. I don't know why they didn't try to get our mid tier 1. Like I know York is punishing their top, but I mean they should get this tier 1. So Wukong ults me here for some reason. I don't know why. And the Sentinel comes in. And I think I would have survived without the Sentinel ult anyways because I have Death Stance and my ult heals me. So it is what it is. It's like a good thing though that Senna ulted just in case. We got the mid tier 1 here because the Wukong got too greedy. Like he thought that he could kill me, but he didn't look at my items probably. So we got the mid tier 1. I kind of want to save this Red Herald and probably use it in another lane if possible, like going top, but Lucian killed it, so it is what it is. Now, once again, I have a lot of gold, but I don't want to recall yet because I want to shove out this mid-wave. If I recall now, it's such a bad timing because drag is up and a mid-wave is coming in the next few seconds, right? So I want to clear this wave, make sure to see if my teammates need help on the dragon, and if they don't, I'm just going to recall and probably look to go to a side lane. Okay, so unfortunately the dragon gets stolen, can't really do anything about that, but I'm working towards my Mortal Reminder. When I'm at 3 items, I should be able to kill their Wukong and their Mordekaiser. Like, it'll be easy for me to live throughout the fights with Death Stance, and then I'll do damage with Essence and Mortal Reminder. So all the other lanes are occupied. I just want to stay mid now because like someone has to be mid lane, right? And you realize that after I push the wave, when I realize I can't push the towers, I'm just going to walk into the enemy jungle and take whatever I can. This is kind of what you do to maximize your gold. You don't really want to just stand around doing nothing. And also, it increases the risk of you getting caught if you just stand in the middle of the lane by yourself. So, you know, if there's no one around and you know no one is around, go take the jungle camps, take waves, and when you see the enemies, you know, on the opposite side or if they're out of position, then you can go for turrets. just make sure you don't die and max out your gold, and it's like a pretty one game at that point, right? So my teammates killed them bot lane. I'm going to walk mid here because I don't think they're defending this for some reason. Like, I'm just gonna hit this turret until I see someone come. Like, if Lucian or Mord comes, and I'll start leaving. Okay, so Lucian, I don't know how he got him from that side, but yeah, I almost killed him. I probably could have, but I really didn't want to risk it since they were coming out of base. Like, it's better that I just get him low and I take this turret and then we recall. Since we have Essence, our ult is on a pretty low cooldown anyway, so like, don't feel like it's a waste if we don't kill him. Just like back off. So everything that your teammate does, just make sure you try and translate that into an advantage for yourself or your team, right? So obviously this game I'm playing a little bit more selfish, right? Because I think that I'm probably the best carry this game against the enemy team. So I'm gonna make sure that as long as I'm doing well, it's okay, right? I can carry my team even if they're doing bad. Like, our jungler hasn't really performed this game, and my Senna has been kind of AFK. Like, she's just following everyone else instead of her Nilah ADC, right? Which is the whole point of playing Nilah Senna in the first place. So to make solo plays, you just have to play this way. It's also the best way to solo carry. So we see the Mordekaiser TPing bot here, and they're fighting mid lane. The most obvious decision here, that's like the best for us, is just for me to keep pushing top, right? Keep applying pressure. The enemy will have to come back to defend, so that's when my teammates can make other plays. The Wukong engages on me here, but I'm pretty sure I win this fight. Like, there's just no way he can beat me. And then we end up fighting the Draven as well and the Mord, and Nilah is always strong when the enemies are running into you. That's when you can maximize your DPS. So I end up 1v3ing. It's kind of just like the normal standard. Like, I'm well farmed, I have items, it's really easy, so you should never run away from situations like this. I'm kind of tempted to end the game here, but unless like the enemy run it down more, it's like kind of hard. But if the enemy do try to fight us here and end up dying, then it should be pretty easy for us to end. Okay, so I mean, if the Leona and the Lucian die like this, it's pretty much GG. Like, we're just collecting kills at this point. And then that should be the end of the game. Like, right here, we ace them, we kill the turret, and we hit the Nexus. So if you're interested in the item tier list or support tier list, any infographics after, make sure to stay. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.